It's me.
We'll begin with an invocation. First, we'll begin with roll call. And that's Joy.
Director Aguilar? Director Kale?
Here.
Director Espinoza?
Present.
Director Faria?
Present.
Director Hogue? Director McDaniel? Director Nagy?
Here.
Director Pereira?
Present.
Director Pedroso?
Here.
Chair Serrato?
Here.
Director Silvera? Thank you, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Joy. We'll begin with invocation from Eric Zetz, and then former Chair Pereira will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after that.
Love you and praise you. We thank you for the opportunity to come together and gather in this place, in this building. Father God, we pray over the MCAG staff that has prepared documents for the MCAG board. We pray over the board as they assess the items that are before them. Father God, we pray for the chair. Give him strength and courage as he endures the term that he's got in front of him. And Father God, we just pray for the residents of Merced County. We ask that the items that are presented before the board bless and keep the residents well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Lloyd?
If you would join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next is item 2, the approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion or a motion in regards to item 2?
I'll move to approve.
Okay. All right, motion from Director Nagy, second from Director Kale. Do we do a roll call, or we just go around roll call?
We have Darren on the line, so we'll have to do roll call.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
roll call vote?
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Here.
Director Faria?
Here.
Director McDaniel?
McDaniel, aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Chair Serrato?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Joy. On to item 3, which is a recognition of service for Director Lloyd Pereira as the chairman, as our chairman from over the last year, from July 21 to June 22. So, I don't know how you want to handle this, Stacy?
You're
but-
going to present, I'm going to take a picture.
Okay. Can do that. Where do you want us to be?
Let's go up front, if you don't mind.
All right.
Just,
While we're walking up, does anyone want to say any nice words about
do
Lloyd?
you want to go up front or right here in front of the flags?
It's your call.
Let's go up front.
Well, let's try to get Emily and Pat and John in the picture instead of. This side is nice.
Might be a glare, but.
Yes, that's perfect.
Oh, wow.
Hammer will come in handy.
Oh, you got Darren's head right over you. He's like,
Ah,
thank you.
big brother's watching you.
Yeah. He does have 2 years seniority on me.
You were awesome.
All right. Thanks again, Lloyd, for a really good year. Appreciate you. I guess you're not going very far, so I'm not going to say we'd miss you, but
You notice he picked the chair furthest from the.
that was my former chair. No, it's a great chair.
That's right.
All right. On to item 4, public comment. Are there any members of the public who would wish to be heard at this time? All right. Anybody on the computer?
Just a reminder for folks on Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature if you wish to make a public comment. While we wait for that, we did receive a public comment in advance of the meeting today via email.
Okay.
Do you want me to read that out?
Either you could read it or you could distribute it to all of us. How long is it?
That long.
We think you're ready to do
We can email it.
it. Okay, yeah, just email it to us. Be great.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right, on to item 5, which is the Caltrans report. Do we have Dennis or Marlon? Dennis, how are you? And Marlon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have Marlon here with me too. So good afternoon again. And of course, the directors of this board. I also want to thank and recognize as well previous chair, Lloyd. Thank you for working with us in your chair as a chair, and look forward to working with Chair Cervera, Serrato, moving forward. I do have a few updates, and I wanted to just try to be as brief as I can. And again, I appreciate you allowing me and Marlon to join virtually. I do have another meeting I have to jump into here in an hour. So I apologize, I can't stay throughout the meeting. First update is I want to at least, if you haven't heard already, it's been a month or two already, we have a new Caltrans director. I appreciate all the support I got last time at the board meeting, and fortunately I put my bid in, didn't get it, but I'll try next time when the opportunity comes. But we are happy to have Tony Tavares, our new Caltrans director, was appointed by the governor last month. He is continuing the direction and leadership that Toke Somashakakin, who's now our secretary of CalSTA, has started with Caltrans. And that's with the People First organization, are looking at our customers and the communities and making sure that we have full engagement and meaningful engagement with everyone we serve. Here in District 10, we try to practice that as well and do that every day whenever we can. Also, Tony did express that he is pushing not only the 3 foundational principles for Caltrans, which was climate action, safety, and equity. He's added a 4th one, and as he goes out and speaks in public events, he will be mentioning not just the 3, but a 4th one, which is economic prosperity. That was just introduced at the last California Transportation Commission, if you attended last month, and we look forward to getting to know more what that means to Caltrans in our everyday activity, and not only that, and how it affects, again, the communities we serve across the state. So we're happy to have Tony on board. I do have a one-on-one meeting scheduled with him. One of my tasks is to make sure we talk about high priority projects and challenges in our districts, and one of them is going to be our State Route 99 corridor. We had the summit several months ago. We're going to make sure, or at least I'm going to make sure, he's up to speed with our gaps that we have here in Merced and Atwater on 99, and get his support to help us finish the 99 corridor and our gap closures. I do appreciate Stacy Guzman, the executive director, has reached out to me and Marlon in regards to the Merced County regional, multimodal regional network. And I think that's a great way to start that discussion, and look forward to that meeting that we have scheduled here in the near future, Executive Director Stacy. So I wanted to share that with our new director. One of the top priorities we mentioned in the past, but the pressure is really coming on pretty quick on our broadband middle mile network program. As you guys remember, through the governor's office and funding with California Department of Technology, we were asked as the Caltrans to help deliver projects, lay out 10,000 miles of fiber across the state. In District 10, we have 807 miles here. That's part of the 10,000 miles. And we've been asked to deliver these projects as early as this December 2022, and of course by no later to construction by December of 2024. So we have our hands full in regards to our broadband commitment, and we're working hard to get these projects out. Just to let you know, out of the 800, Merced County with different routes and different, which passes through different cities in Merced County, we have about 118 miles of fiber or broadband network lane miles that we have committed to deliver. We do have a broadband coordinator in the district, and we'll again continue to share Dina Elnakau's contact information as needed. If you need to talk to her, she has the bigger plan and our status of all the projects we'll be working on. Along with that, and Marlon's going to cover this, but we have a lot of the federal funding, discretionary grants that are going out there for California, and we really look forward to trying to be successful here in District 10, Merced County, for all those competitive grants. Marlon will cover some of those opportunities that are coming up, and of course, we have previous one as well, that notice of funding opportunity that's been shared. More to come. A lot of funding coming into transportation, so we look forward again with our partnership on getting these projects completed. I know that we normally put a District 10 letter out to all of you. The last one was in May. I hope to get those updated in the next couple of weeks and send it out to all of you. These are really more specific details on the projects that we're working on, maintenance activities, traffic safety investigations, just to continue to keep you up to date on a quarterly basis of where we're at. The last thing I wanted to mention is that I started at least in District 10, what I'm calling it a District 10 Ambassador Program. The letter's been sent out, but the whole intent of this Ambassador Program is really to enhance communication and strengthen the partnerships we have with 8 counties in District 10 and 30 cities. So what I've done is I've asked each of my deputies to be assigned a county and several cities within those counties to be that point person that the city manager or the county public works directors can reach out to that's related to anything in our transportation system. And of course, those letters just was sent out earlier this week, so it should go to the city managers, your respective city managers, and public works directors as well. So just want to give you all a heads up that I'm starting this ambassador program. I'm hoping to be even well worthwhile to make sure that we have transparent and open communication with all our partners here in District 10. I will stop there, and I'm going to ask Marlon to kind of give a quick update of all the other opportunities with the federal funding coming.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Marlon?
Dennis. Oh, sorry.
No, I just thank Dennis. Go ahead, Marlon.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Madam Director. Thank you to the board. Appreciate the time as always. I'll start with, since Dennis had several mentions of federal funding, I'll start with the federal programs that we're keeping track of. Obviously, what we all know that the bipartisan infrastructure law has been passed, and there's many funding opportunities coming our way. Some of them I've mentioned at previous board meetings, but I do want to highlight some, especially those that have been extended. Starting with the Safe Streets and Roads for All. That is a federal program, and there is $5 billion over the next 5 years to fund regional, local, and tribal initiatives to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. That's also something Caltrans is very much in support of, and we are encouraging eligible applicants such as MCAG and partner agencies to, if you are interested and would like a letter of support, please do reach out to us. We're happy to support your efforts on the regional and county level. This funding opportunity for Safe Streets and Roads for All closes on September 15th. So if you'd like more information on that program, please do reach out to myself. I'm happy to share any information you'd like. Also, our bridge investment program, or not ours, but the federal bridge investment program also has $2.4 billion in grant funding available this year alone to improve bridge conditions and safety, efficiency, and reliability of movement of people and freight over bridges. This program call ends on August 9th. So again, if you'd like a letter of support or you'd like more information on that program, please do reach out to myself. Happy to share additional information. The other program, federal program I wanted to mention was the Reconnecting Communities. I know we mentioned this in the past as well. This one has been extended until October 15th. Caltrans, we would like to offer any opportunities to partner or support any projects, proposals in the county. Our ask is that you send any requests for letters of support by July 29th this month, which is 7 days or 8 days from now. Again, as other programs, if you'd like further information, please do let me know. I'm happy to share information as well. I want to move over quickly to the state side of things. The active transportation program, cycle 6 just closed, but we've heard recently from CTC and state legislature that there will be another funding call, and this is actually going to be coming up probably in the next couple of months, the augmentation, and this will have a lot more money available to it as well. I think the last quote that we heard was either $500 million available for this program or up to $1 billion. So we're looking for further information on that. Once we have it, we'll pass that along to the board and partners. And if you'd like more information on the ATP, please do let me know as well. On the department side, we had just released our Complete Streets Action Plan. That's actually one of the first things our new director has done. It's now on our website and being led by Headquarters Sustainability. And it reflects our director's policy on complete streets, Director's Policy 37, that was released in December of last year. It really encourages and maximizes walking, biking, transit, and passenger rail as a strategy to meet our statewide strategic goals and also foster resilient communities. So if you'd like a copy of the plan, you can reach out to me, or you can check out our Caltrans Sustainability website as well. The last thing I want to mention is I really want to just give some thanks to MCAG and the team, Stacy's team, particularly Nav Bagri, for being able to get the planning funds spent. That was a little bit of a concern for us, but we're very happy about the staffing up and all the work that MCAG has been doing lately. So Caltrans District 10, we really want to just extend our thanks and appreciation to MCAG team for working with us appropriately, and also the overall work program. That does conclude my remarks. I'm happy to take any questions, thoughts, concerns, and appreciate the time.
Thank you, Marlon. Director McDaniel.
Yeah, thank you, Marlon. Thank you for that update. Dennis, thank you for the update. You had mentioned the federal the bridge program. We do currently have a regional project with our Measure V funds, and the city of Merced has taken the lead on it. But we have 2 bridges that are on Highway 59. Is that something that Caltrans would want to partner with us on? Is that something we could bridge together? No pun intended. But I just think it's something that it needs to be done. It's a tight fit over there, and I mean it's a state highway, but we took the initiative with our Measure V funds to make it a regional project, and the city of Merced has taken the lead. I'm repeating myself, but I think that's something that Caltrans and us could partner with together, and that would be more in the bag of self-help.
I'll take that question. Thank you, Director McDaniel, and thank you for offering to partner with Caltrans. Of course, if anything that touches our highway, our bridges, we're more than open to have that discussion. So if the city of Merced is working on this, we were happy to work with the city. Whoever you would like us to reach out to, I'll make sure the appropriate folks in my department in District 10 will reach out and start that discussion. Of course, Marlon's our contact as well, but let's talk and have more discussion on it, and I look forward to seeing how we could partner, for sure.
Very good. Yeah, thanks for that. That's something that's always been on my mind. I've never been able to bring it up. When you brought up the federal bridge program, I thought if we both went after a chunk of that money, we'd be a little more successful.
Agreed.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I forgot to say one other thing. I wanted to really congratulate the County of Merced on a successful ribbon cutting back a couple weeks ago with the delivery and the ribbon cutting of the Merced Campus Parkway Segment 3. That was a great celebration. Thank you for inviting Caltrans, myself, and some of my few members. Enjoyed that celebration, and again, congratulations to the county and the Merced campus as well. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any other questions for us? We'll be happy to take it.
Director Silvera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have quite a few of them, actually. First off, Dennis, I'm sorry that you weren't appointed as the head of Caltrans. My letter of support is still out there if you need it. But to that note, I was wondering, what's the possibility of you getting the new Caltrans director to one of our meetings? He said if he's going to be out traveling around, we'd love to host him here at one of our MCAG meetings. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, there's always a possibility, and it doesn't hurt to ask. So I definitely will make that call and see if I can convince him to come down, and why not Merced, because that's a very important place. It's a growing county, and again, we have a lot of important projects that we have to deliver, and I'll do my best to get them to your board meeting here.
Perfect. And one way that you could kind of entice them is you can talk about Campus Parkway Segment 3 and how it actually came in early and under budget during COVID. And I don't know of too many other places that can actually say that. And that's a testament of the good work of the folks at Merced County DPW and the folks that actually did the boots on the ground work there to make that happen. And then the next question is you had mentioned about an ambassador for Merced County. And I was just curious, have you already named that ambassador, or are you waiting to do like a special press release for us to find out?
I did send a letter out to the county. That's with Dana, right? Our folder. Our contact person who's been assigned for Merced County specifically is Grace McSio. She is my deputy for program project management, asset management. If one of these deputies, all of them are great, but Grace is always continue to be a great partner with our locals, especially when we deliver projects. So Grace has been assigned. She will send out a follow-up letter to the county informing of her new role and, of course, contact information, and continue to have an open discussion. So we do have 3 other deputies, and Marlon is included in this, to help with the contact with all the cities within the county. So along with Grace, with Marlon, and I believe we have our vendor, you guys, especially in Los Banos. Our vendor has been assigned to Los Banos because we have our task force along there. And so those are the 3 different assignments I have in just in Merced County alone.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm sorry if I missed that email. Just a comment, Marlon, I noticed that you moved out of your fancy office. I don't see it behind you anymore. Most of the meetings, I always admired that. And then now I'll get to the nuts and the bolts of it. I want to highlight for you guys an issue on Highway 33 in the Dos Palace area. Recently, that Highway 33 from Dos Palace Y into Dos Palace has been repaved. When I say recently, within the last year. And at Highway 33 at the Arroyo Canal, it seems to be that there's a sinkhole, or there's something that's going on underneath the roadway there. It's folks that drive through there just at normal 55 miles an hour speed. It's quite dangerous as how it was reported to me. I haven't had a chance. I just found this out about this a couple days ago, and I haven't had a chance to actually drive it and see. And then also at Highway 33 by Clark Brothers, which is just near Carmelia Avenue, there's another challenge there. I think it's kind of maybe they redid a pipe underneath the road, and it seems to be a little bit of settling there. So again, those 2 issues were highlighted to me by some of my constituents. So if you guys could check those out, I think that the one at the Arroyo Canal is probably the bigger one. It's presenting a safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, and I definitely will follow with that ASAP. Anytime I start hearing sinkholes or settlements in our highway, we take those things seriously, and we usually try to get out there with a director's order if it requires any type of construction to fix it. So thank you for bringing that to our attention this evening. We'll definitely get on it.
Anybody else? Lloyd?
Dennis, Lloyd Pereira. There's an intersection in Merced, V Street. There's an underpass under 99, and then it turns into Highway 140. And so if you're on either V Street headed south, or you're on 14th Street and turning south, traffic backs up into the intersection pretty heavily. And one thing that would help alleviate some of that traffic is if you're now on V Street, you've gone under the 99 and you're at the light to turn right into 140. There's times where there could be a right turn arrow, a green arrow there, and would allow that traffic to move out and keep that the intersection on the other side of the freeway from backing up. So I know it's. I've had two people friends of mine that live out on 140 that have kind of shared that with me, and so that's one thing. Secondly, is that when I was at the Caltrans yard here in Merced for the kind of the grand opening of the Restore Merced project, I met David Jensen. And he shared with me his phone number and said, hey, if you on especially on Highway 59, if I saw any issues, to let him know, which is fine, and I'd like to do that. But is there somebody else that I should loop in on that text or email, so I'm not bypassing some sort of protocol?
I appreciate that our own staff is willing to take on these challenges. It'd probably be best. With Marlon and I, we have no problem taking on these types of things and making sure we get it to the right people that can address the concern. So if you don't mind, please passing that over, Director Barrow, to both Marlon and I. We will definitely follow up.
Okay, thank you. And then I just wanted to thank you. The crew's been out doing some shoulder work on North Highway 59, north of Merced, and they do some, and then they'll leave for a period, but they've always come back, and they've gradually been making a difference. And there's been some turns that they've made a lot safer. So thank you for that.
Very good.
Yes. Director Espinosa.
Thank you, sir. Dennis, I think you addressed the Safe Streets for All. I know that in Merced County, just south of Childs, we have a few streets with no unsafe streets, no sidewalks, and no drainage. So I know, I'm pretty sure we can work with the county and Caltrans to get some funds, apply for some funds for that area of my district. Also, I know that you had a public meeting addressing whether there's a potential streets or roundabout at Girard and south 59 in my district, and I think it was discussed that there's a priority for Caltrans to probably put a roundabout there, but I think that traffic is pretty fast there, and I think that I think from what we were talking with some community citizens, that we had a community meeting, they wanted to see probably the lights as well, just like in Planada. They've been wanting lights instead of roundabouts. I know that roundabouts is a lot more, it looks more aesthetically nice and slows down traffic. That's what the numbers show, but I know in South Merced, I don't know if there's enough space there for a roundabout. I know that, there's a lot of businesses there, so you would have to probably take a lot of property away from the surrounding businesses. So I don't know if it'll, safe-wise, I know that, like I said, again, roundabouts tend to be safer, but I don't know if it's the right idea for that area. And also, if we can get an update on that, where it's at, and also on the one Highway 140 in Plainsburg and Planada, and also the crossing at Sutter and 140. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Espinosa. Some of those existing investigations or studies or projects definitely be included in my letter that I'll send in a couple of weeks out back to the board. The other new items that you brought up with the projects that we're looking at, either a roundabout or another traffic safety solution, whether it be a signal and something similar to that, definitely we'll have to follow with my project management team. Part of our expectation is to go out there and get some community engagement, get some good feedback on these types of alternatives, and hopefully a lot of the concerns that you've been hearing, we've heard it as well and documented accordingly as we progress and trying to get the right safety project out there for the community. And our goal is to get these projects out sooner than later, and definitely appreciate the input we're getting, and definitely will follow up with, again, our team and again with the communities to make sure we're all on the same page and we can support whatever solution that it finally gets designed and built out there.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Director Faria.
Thank you. There it is. Thanks. Nice to see you, Dennis. Thanks for coming today. Want to follow up on signalization at Ortigalita and Pioneer and progress there, and then we also spoke about the possibility of looking into a study on the signalization of Mercy Springs and Pioneer, those two junctions. I wonder if we have any progress on those or how we're doing.
Good. Thank you, Director Ferreira. I unfortunately don't have it in front of me, but like I said, I believe those are part of the project's status on the letters I send out. So if it's not in there, I'll make sure that it's included. I know a lot of that effort is working through our vendor and his office, and if they're becoming real projects, then Grace and her team gets those projects out. So we'll be happy to report back the status on these jobs.
Okay, thank you very much. And if Tony's going to come, tell him bring his drums, and I'll bring my keys. We used to play together 30 years ago.
Oh, is that right? Yes, he is. He continues to play on his. That's kind of his side job, but yes.
Yep.
Definitely. He even sings too, that I understand.
Yeah, he always did. Yeah, I played with him and David for years. Well, for a season one time when their keyboard was gone. Thanks.
We just have the entertainment taken care of for the next retreat.
We'll make it all happen.
All right.
City County dinner, I heard it.
Oh, there you
Next
go.
city county dinner.
Ah.
If they're good enough, then maybe we can book them for a board retreat.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you. Thanks again for all the work. Again, Campus Parkway, and Lloyd mentioned the Restore Merced Clean California partnership with the Butte County Office of Education. Great program there. We're seeing those yellow bags everywhere again. Thank you from the City of Merced for the grant for the murals. So we're excited about that. We're going to have murals under, I believe, 7 underpasses over under Highway 99. And then on that topic, 99 is as soon as that project can get finished, I think our community would appreciate it too. I know you guys are working hard on it, but long way to go. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Thank you, Dennis. Anybody else? Done? Okay. On to item 6. Mr. Jose Delgadillo has been patiently waiting, and he is ready to address us as a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Jose.
Good afternoon, directors. You have a choice of a short one or a long one, but you do not have a choice anymore because our chairman Serrato, he already made the decision. So you be thankful to him. Mine is short, okay? So I'll do the short one. Okay. I missed the MCAG's CAC monthly meeting July 1st. My wife and I were in Toronto, Canada on vacation. Unfortunately, 10 out of the 15 days we were in quarantine. And besides that, also the sewer system in the whole house busted. Okay, but we survived. And well, we all recovered and tested negative just in time to return to California. But because I was the first one to test positive, they blame it on California, okay? I wasn't worried about this report. Having Joy Young taking notes for us makes it easier to report the results to you. As Joy noted, staff presented the MCAG and TJPA action, information, and discussion items to the Citizens Advisory Committee. The CIC recommended all the actions items for your approval. Items that generated discussion included Recommendation to hold a public hearing and solicit public comments and adopt a transit route schedule and service revisions that will become effective August 13, 2022, excuse me. The committee discussed the public comment period and the Title VI requirements, noting that MCAG has this information available on their website. Transportation Planning and Measure V monthly update. The committee discussed the Regional Transportation Plan and the Federal Transportation Improvement Program draft documents and noted that both documents and associated environmental impact reports are now available for public review and comment. A public hearing will be held July 21st at a regular scheduled governing board meeting. Other points of interest, unfortunately, I have plenty, but he made the long story short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your work. All right. Any questions for Jose?
Go ahead, ask all the questions you want. They have the answers.
Okay. On to agenda item 7, informational items. Any directors have any questions about any of the informational items presented? Okay, seeing none, on to item 8, our consent agenda. Any items that any members of the board desire to pull for separate consideration or any separate discussion, or else is there a motion in regards to the consent agenda?
Chair Silvera, motion to approve. Second.
Okay. We have a motion from Director Silvera, second from Director Pedroso. Joy?
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
McDaniel, aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Chair Serrato?
Yes.
Thank you, and motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Moves us to agenda item 9, our action items. 9A is our public hearing on the draft 2022 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, Environmental Impact Report, and draft 2023 Federal Transportation Improvement Program and Air Quality Conformity Analysis. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My presentation is going to be about as short as the title, because that's a mouthful. But before
45 minutes.
yeah, under 45 minutes, I promise. Before we do open the public hearing, I do want to provide the board and the public that's here and watching online with a hopefully brief, considering how complicated these topics can be, presentation on the draft 2022 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy and the 2023 Federal Transportation Improvement Program and Air Quality Analysis. And if, Mary Michael, you're the slide, you have all the power? Okay, next slide, please. So I'm going to start with the 2022 RTP-SCS, and it's the Environmental Impact Report. I will attempt to do a high-level kind of just overview of these products and what's in them, and then, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I'll also make sure that this PowerPoint is on our website. It is written as a standalone document, so it should be informational just for anyone who's able to read it after this meeting as well. Okay, next slide, please. So let's start with the basics, and just as a reminder, the RTP-SCS is a long-range vision and investment plan for our region's multimodal transportation needs for the next 25 years. It's a tool that provides guidance for local land use policies. It identifies transportation projects and funding. It shows how a region can meet our quality standards, and specifically how we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions from passenger vehicles. And it also illustrates how our local agencies can help meet our state housing goals. Next slide, please. We do it not just because we have to, in order to get transportation funding for our projects. We have to have this document in order to qualify for state and federal funding pots, a lot of what we hear from Caltrans. But also because the measures that are intended to reduce the VMT, or the vehicle miles traveled, also support our health, public health. It reduces energy consumption, and it protects our natural resources. Next slide, please. So the 2022 RTPS, yes, it is important to note that it is a minor update to the 2018 plan. We have to do this every 4 years. Sometimes it is a minor update. Sometimes it is a bit of, it requires more of an overhaul and you kind of start fresh. This was a minor update, namely because our 2018 plan was just accepted by the California Air Resources Board in February of this year. But the plan, even though it is an update, will still address the 4 main components, and those are the regional growth assumptions, transportation options, the benefits of the investments and the improvements that are in the plan, and a revenue forecast that will fund the projects that are included in the plan. Next slide, please. And more specifically, the plan must also demonstrate how we can meet our regional target for greenhouse gas reductions from passenger vehicles that was set for the Merced County region by CARB, or the California Air Resources Board. And those regional targets are indexed to the years 2020 and 2035, and were set as a reduction of 10% GHG reduction by 2020 and 14% by 2035. Next slide, please. So talking about how the plan was developed, it was largely in coordination with the RTP SCS Advisory Committee that helped with the development of a number of scenarios that combined different land uses and transportation options to meet our regional goals. And then we sought input on those scenarios and overall plan goals from public and from general public and stakeholders through a variety of sources: webinars, workshops, surveys, really trying to use all the tools available to us for that kind of input. And then after that, through that process, as you know, earlier this year, we had a preferred scenario that was selected through the committee and was brought to this board, and that selected preferred scenario is the basis for the draft plan and the associated environmental impact report. And those documents are what we're talking about today, that are now under public review and open for public comment as part of today's hearing. And then ultimately, we'll be seeking board adoption for the final RTP SCS and EIR next month in August. Next slide. Thank you. Here is just a snapshot. I wanted you to see the broad range of stakeholders that were involved in the advisory committee, with a special thank you to Directors Faria and Pedroso for their time and efforts in the process. Next slide, thank you. And as I mentioned, we used a variety of tools and approaches to solicit feedback from the public through workshops, social media, targeted email distributions to make sure that as many groups that we could reach to provide feedback were given that opportunity to provide their input through, if not at one of the webinar workshops, but also through a survey. Next slide, please. And through that process, as I mentioned, we arrived at a preferred scenario that was selected and approved by this board to be included in the draft document that we're talking about today. So I do want to spend a minute just to kind of refresh what that scenario involves. So it's called the Conserve and Connect Merced County. It's our preferred scenario. It is important, I think, to note that this board did choose the most, I say aggressive, but I always think that word has a negative connotation. It was the most progressive. It was the most proactive scenario of the scenario options, because it really focuses on a multitude of strategies: infill, mixed use development, more multifamily housing, more investment in active alternative modes. It had the highest housing density at 10.9 units per acre, and that is a regional average for new construction. It minimizes the conversion of farmland, and it really focuses investments on making our communities more walkable, bikeable, and transit-oriented, with a number of noted investments in ride-sharing and van pooling, the expansion of bus transit, and a variety of other strategies. And there's also an emphasis on connectivity between those modes, especially with the passenger rail services that are coming to Merced. Next slide, please. So the revenue forecast is through 2046, and it's a total of $3.689 billion with a B. And that's with more than half of that is assumed to be coming from state resources, 10% in federal funding, and a little more than a quarter coming from local sources. So this is our revenue forecast. So these are the assumptions. And then if you look at the investment plan, that's right, thank you. These slides look so similar. When I looked up, I thought it was the same one. Looking at the investment plan, you can see that if you transit and active modes like bike ped make up nearly a quarter of the projects, 53% going to maintenance and safety projects, and just 24% going towards road capacity projects. So this is the investment plan compared to the revenue forecast. Thank you. So this is a lot of numbers on a little screen, and even with the block, that's okay. Well, yeah, you might want to move. That's an important column. There you go. This is how the preferred scenario compared to the other scenario options that were discussed earlier. And you can see that scenario 3 is the best performing across all the metrics that we have there that I briefly mentioned. And there at the bottom, the note is the important one that scenario 3 does meet CARB's GHG reduction target, as you remember, was 14% reduction, and we see here that scenario 3 provides an 18.1% per capita reduction. We're coming into the end here. I'm going to get through this. Doing okay. Okay. The environmental impact report. So I do want to just, I mentioned earlier that the plan did have an accompanying environmental impact report that evaluated the impacts of the plan across a broad range of areas. And, some of the most notable, of course, are air quality and traffic, hydrology, land use, social and economic effects, population, housing and employment, and a variety of others you can see there that are the biggest categories. And then I'll also just want to mention in terms of where we are in the process, as you know, this has been a priority for the team for all of this year. And we are currently in that 55-day public comment period with an end date of August 4th. And then again, we'll be bringing this back to the board after collecting all of that input and any public comment that we receive, bringing the documents back to the board for adoption in August. And then I do just want to quickly highlight the 2023 Federal Transportation Improvement Program and Air Quality Conformity Analysis. You'll hear us refer to this as the FTIP. Next slide, please. So while the RTP is the long-range planning document that assumes, the future revenue we talked about, the FTIP is a 4-year document that programs projects once that federal funding is received. So we might be assuming certain grants that we're going to be able to leverage in our RTP. Once a project gets that grant award, it needs to be programmed in the FTIP if it's within that four-year window. So that's how those two documents relate to each other. And you can see here that this is just a snapshot of some of the major funding programs that get funded or that get programmed through our FTIP process. And that's a standard item you see on your agenda many times throughout the year. So in the 2023 FTIP, that's for federal fiscal years, and you can go to the next slide, please. That's for federal fiscal years 22-23 through 25-26, and again, in its total of $289 million being programmed in the document. And again, this is any Merced County transportation project that's a recipient of federal funds or is otherwise regionally significant, regardless of its funding source. And then also in terms of the air quality conformity, that is a finding that the RTP-SES and the FTIP meet federal air quality requirements. So that's a big one. Okay, you can find both documents that I just summarized on the MCAG website. And a reminder that the public comment period ends on August 4th. And just if we go to the last slide, I do want to recognize the team of people who worked on these documents. I am the one giving this report to you, but it was a whole host of folks that made both of these documents possible. Ty, as you've met on our team, was the lead with lots of support staff from MCAG, along with our consultants, Georgina Vivian, I think she's on the line. Yes, I can see her there, with VRPA Technologies. She's been instrumental, put the document together and did the draft, did the environmental impact report, and was really the lead in a lot of our RTP activities. And then also I have to mention our consultants with Trinity Consultants and Fair and Peers, also excellent partners through this process. But a special thank you to Tulare County Association of Governments. You'll recall earlier this year, I asked this board to, we went into contract with TCAG for additional staffing support, and their TCAG staff was an excellent resource. Our saying was we'll just say they saved our rears a few times. They were an excellent team of people to work with. We couldn't have done it without them. And we said thank you by poaching Elizabeth from their team, who's here today. Elizabeth Forte is our new director for planning and programming. So she is going to be leading the team and is already doing excellent work and was very involved in both of these documents preparation. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time, and that concludes my presentation.
Of course. Thank you, Stacy, for your presentation. Any questions for Stacy before we open the public hearing? All right, seeing none, now opening the public hearing at 3:51 p.m. Do any members of the public wish to be heard? Okay, turning to my right to Joy and Mary Michael. Anybody in virtual world that wants to be heard on this item? Okay, seeing heads shaken at 3:52, we'll conclude the public hearing, bring it back to the board for any additional discussion. Any comments, discussion? Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not here for any action today. That the matter will be heard again in August, and there's no request for action today on our part.
That's correct, just the public hearing.
Okay. All right, seeing no comments, last chance. All right, we'll move on to 9B, and this is the public hearing on the draft RENA, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. Natalia Austin, welcome.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, directors. So I'll be brief, giving a brief overview of the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or the RENA. That's a process that's required by the state, where the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, like we like to say for short, determines how much housing currently exists and then how much more is needed for the next 8 years to keep up with population growth. So then HCD then directs local jurisdictions to plan for the amount of housing that will be needed. And so the state requires that MPOs help with this process by developing a methodology for figuring out how much housing will each city and county plan for. So we have been working with a steering committee that's made up of representatives from each of the county's jurisdictions, and also several at-large representatives over the past several months. And they have proposed a recommended methodology for distributing the region's housing need. And so the 35-day public comment period, that's for the draft RENA methodology framework memorandum, started on June 21st, and it's going to end on July 26th. And so not only will we be welcome to receive comments today from the public hearing, we also want to continue to receive comments through mail and email or during this public comment period. And also I want to say that we do have hard copies available at our office, and we also have the document posted on our MCAG website on our RENA webpage. So any comments that we receive will be incorporated into an updated methodology memorandum that will be sent to HCD for a 60-day review. So after HCD approval, then that final methodology will be presented to the governing board for adoption in September or October. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Natalia before we take public comment? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll open the public hearing at 3:54. Would any members of the public like to be heard on this item, the draft RENA? Okay, seeing none, turning to my right, is there anybody online who would wish to be heard on this? Okay, thank you. All right, closing the public hearing at 3:55, bringing it back to the board. Any additional questions, comments? Okay, seeing none. And again, Stacy, turning to you, or Natalia's coming back up. Any requests for action on our part at this time? Leave it alone.
No, I just wanted to remind that the public comment period does not, I just wanted to remind that the public comment period does not end until June 26th. Actually, July 26th, and I think I said that wrong the first time as well. So it's that'll be a very short public comment period. Sorry, so let me just reiterate, that's a 35-day public comment period, and it was starting in June 21st, and it will end in July 26th. So there's still time for the public to give comments if they wish to do so. Also, please be sure to visit our website. We have a dedicated RENA webpage. We have everything on there for more information, and we're continuing to update it during this process. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to item 9C. This is the to authorize Stacy to request $100,000 in REAP 2 advanced funding and adopt an associated resolution. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item, as you know, the MCAG Governing Board is the governing body to determine how our region will be spending our REAP 2, or Regional Early Action Planning funds from the state. The REAP 2 guidelines have not yet been officially published. They've been still in draft form, but earlier this year, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, did give the opportunity for regions to apply for up to 10% of their total funding allocation that they can expect, to apply for that money in advance and use that for the outreach that is required prior to the development of the funding application for the whole award. So MCAG will be eligible to apply for up to $3.9 million in REAP 2. That funding application has to be in by December 31st of this year, and there are already quite a few stipulations of how the process, what the process needs to be to develop the application in terms of outreach and engagement. So I'm requesting that the board authorize a submission of that pre-funding application of, it's actually not 10%, I'm requesting a little less than 3% of $100,000, and that would be primarily for staff time, and we are currently in the middle of procuring a consulting firm with housing expertise and outreach expertise to do a very short time frame that we have, but a very robust outreach engagement process, and also to work with the REAP committee of the jurisdictions and our staff to develop our funding application by that December timeline. So this would allow me to put that request in. The application for the advanced funds requires a resolution, which is attached to this staff report.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Any questions, comments for Stacy? Okay.
Second.
All right, motion from former Chair Pereira, second from, you can always have it back if anytime you want. Second from Director Silvera. Joy?
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Silvera? Chair Serrata?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Joy. All right, on to item 9D. Again, Stacy, I believe this is yours. This is to authorize the use of close to $500,000 of Measure V funding to buy a zero-emission bus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That about sums it up. As you know, 5% of the measure funding is dedicated for transit purposes. This board has previously authorized as much as $500,000 at a time to use as a local match for the purchase of vehicles. This one, and it is an expressed use of the funds in the voter-approved plan, is to buy low-emission vehicles. This particular request would be the local match to complete the funding package to purchase one electric bus through the partnership with the City of Merced with their Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities grant that was awarded a few years ago. That grant provides $750,000 for a bus, and currently one battery electric bus and the associated equipment is about $1.23 million. So this $482,333 would be earmarked for the use of local match for that grant or for that bus purchase. But I do want to note that we would also be pursuing an HVIP voucher, as you recall, that's available. That would be reduce the use of Measure V by $150,000 once we're able to secure that. So if you look on your staff report on page 334, the two different funding scenarios, whether we get the HVIP voucher or not, are outlined, and we are requesting the use of up to the max of that 482 to 333, and of course would reduce the use of that if we get the HVIP voucher, which we anticipate we will.
Any comments, questions for Stacy, or a motion?
Chair Silvera, motion to approve.
Second.
Joy?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Aye.
Director Pedroso,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Chair Serrato.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Joy. On to item 9E, which is the renewal of the JPA. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the board knows, our JPA, our Joint Powers Agreement for the authority or for the agency, is set to expire July 18th of next year, 2023. The governing board had the focus in the governing board retreat in November to work on the renewal of that and the creation of a draft third amended and restated joint powers agreement for MCAG. In February, the draft document that was agreed to or discussed or generated out of the retreat was brought to this board, and staff was directed to release that to the jurisdictions for review and comment, and agreed to an extended comment period to end on July 6th. The County of Merced did provide comments before that deadline, and as well I received a letter on June 29th from the City of Los Banos on behalf of the 6 cities requesting additional time to review and submit comments, but the letter did not specify a new deadline. So at this time, we are requesting that the governing board provide direction on next steps, which could include the approval of an extension, of which the date or the how long of an extension should be, I would request to be suggested by the maker of the motion, or releasing the draft to the jurisdiction as it is for execution, or any other action as desired by the majority of the board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Stacy. And Mary Michael, I might have been mistaken earlier when you, I might have missed it. Did you say that the written communication applied to this agenda item, or is it just for regular open communication?
It didn't specify, but it does not appear to apply to this item.
Okay, I misheard you. Thank you. All right, Chair.
Yeah.
Mayor Faria.
Our staff has asked for us for 6 months for a time frame on that to have more time to look over the agreement and work it over and get it to where it needs to be. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Director McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, when I look at this has taken a lot of staff time. These bylaws reflect exactly what we did on that retreat. I mean, we didn't agree on all of them, but the majority came together on this. I don't think we need more time, because more time means more staff being directed to do something that they normally, I mean, we have to get stuff done here. And unless there's something major changes that are wanted presented, that should have been presented at the retreat, this language is what we came up with. I am not in favor of continuing this. I want to accept them and move on. So that's my motion.
Okay. Any other comment or discussion? Yes, go ahead, Director Pedroso.
I'm curious as to, I mean, if you've had this document for this amount of time, why the 6 months?
That was a request from my staff, and we've had some city management turnover, and so my staff has requested that to go over the language a bit more, and all 6 cities, I think, have made that request. There's one thing to point out about this particular agreement, which is different from anything else that comes before MCAG, and that is its approval, the way I understand it, is based upon the 7 entities and not the 11 members of the board. And so it's different from anything else that comes across the MCAG board. And we want to make sure there was some things done that weren't all that great in the last round. We want to make sure we get it right. We have the time, and we'd like to use it. So that's what I'd like to see.
I guess I mean, I'm okay with giving it a little bit extra time, but 6 months seems, I mean, that's a long time. And I mean, if you have specific, I mean, you just said that staff is asking for 6 months, but that you know that what staff's concerns are now. So why, I guess I'm hung up on the 6 months. I understand there's new people in and there's other stuff that's going on, but I'm going to agree with Mr. McDaniel in the fact that, we've had time. I'm okay with giving a little bit more time, but 6 months seems a little, excessive.
Thanks. Thank you, through the chair. Thank you. And I'd like to hear from the other cities and see how the other cities feel, if that's okay with the chair.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosi.
Would anybody else like to be heard?
Yeah, I in approaching our staff with this, they did have some definite concerns, and we don't have a large staff, and so we're relying upon those individuals who have the time, and right now it's not their focus at this time when we have a complete year before we have to approve it. So they're actually putting it not completely behind, but they want to be able to take their time and look through it and make sure that it works for the city as well as everybody else. So I understand 6 months is a long time. I'm more than willing to reduce that a little bit, but not much. We still got to get our daily chores done with the limited amount of staff that we have.
Thank you, Director Kale.
Sure.
Next, Director Aguilar.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think it's a fair ask for additional time to be thorough and have give the cities an opportunity to really, look at the document and everything else. 6 months might seem a little excessive, but maybe we could compromise for a lesser time, just to give that, be fair and give that additional time. I'm for giving additional time. If it seems too excessive, maybe 4 months or something like that.
Director Espinosa.
Well, I think it's about cooperation between the county and, the members and the city. So I think, if the cities are requesting time, I think that there's no problem. Like I said, it just, I think we got to work it out and allow a little more time. Thank you.
Anybody else? Director Nagy?
Yeah, when we went on the retreat, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, end of last year, we picked this thing apart at that point, and we've all had it. Basically, we've all known what was going into it since that time. I think that we're kicking the can down the road, and you're still going to get to have your say on it when it goes back to your cities. If there's something that you really can't live with, then you wouldn't pass it at the city level, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you're looking at me, yeah, I think
the way that it works. That's a question. I don't know.
Looking at Emily. Yeah.
So
I wasn't dodging you, Pat.
I don't see wasting time with staff time and so forth. We've all been over this, and nobody could tell us what it is that they have a problem with, just that they have a problem. So I don't know that any amount of extra time is going to give them, find a reason why they don't agree with it. So I think we should just go ahead and get it passed. This is actually a 4-decade-old or older, goes back into the 1960s. So this is just a restatement of the Joint Powers Agreement. It's not, we're not creating a new egg here. We're just reinventing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just we're doing whatever, re-ratifying it or whatever you want to call it. But, and I believe Director McDaniel, you made a motion. I would like to second that motion.
Your attorney had a comment?
I just wanted to note, as far as the time frame for this, once we receive comments back from the cities, we already have the county's comments. We will have to organize a meeting or some sort of negotiation between the counties and the cities to discuss those changes, and we need additional time in order to do that. After that process is complete and we are able to reach an agreed upon contract, that will then need to go to each of your councils for approval. So I understand the cities needing additional time to review the document. However, I'd ask this board to keep in mind that we have 1 year. That would leave us 6 months to complete the negotiation and to get it approved by all jurisdictions. That does not seem possible to me.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, discussion? Bear.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I heard a couple folks say that they have concerns. Well, then obviously the document's been reviewed if you have the concerns. And so if you already know that you have the concerns, why didn't we submit those? And I get it. Everybody's going through transition. And you are completely right. I think it was Director Kale that said that you don't have the staff. Obviously the county's bigger and we have more staff that are dedicated to these things. I feel like there's more at play here. And I wish that somebody would just come out and say what's at play. And is if there's fundamental differences, we went down this road. We spent 2 years going down this road, and we tried different ways to address. I'm going to say it, the city of Los Banos and Mayor. The previous mayor had concerns, and Mayor Serrato, the previous mayor had concerns, and we tried to find ways to address those, and we ended up back at this point that we had this retreat. If you legitimately could sit here and tell me that you did not have time to review this and it hadn't been reviewed, I would understand that. I would say, hey, listen, I know myself personally have frustrations if I'm not given enough time to review something to be able to make an educated vote on it. But you had it for 120 days. And so I tend to agree with my colleague, Director McDaniels. What do we gain by giving more time? If we know what the concerns are, then you should have submitted them. Even if it was just a quick email that said, these are our concerns, send them over. Because as council just stated, we're not even close to the point where this comes back. This is, comments come in, the jurisdictions have to agree, and then, and only then do we come, and then it goes back out to the jurisdictions. And 6 months is a non-starter for me. And the reason that I say that is there's elections coming up. People change places. Everything that we've worked on, then you get new folks in there, and then so I guess my question is for council: what happens if we don't get it done by July of 23? That's the to me, what happens?
Then we will be operating without a joint powers agreement.
And what does that mean? Does that mean they shut the power off and everybody goes home? Does it mean that we're just operating? We can't legally sign. I'd really be curious to know that, because that is my number one concern.
I don't have a clear answer for you on that. That was one of the issues that we discussed during the arbitration between MCAG and 3 of the cities. That was one of the issues that I had with that, frankly. I don't think anyone knows the answer to that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Director McDaniel.
Mike.
Okay, sorry about that. A little slow on the. Yeah, I'm still in the same place, and it's clearly, whenever you receive the letter signed by 6 cities, it's a clear Brown Act violation. that the cities are collaborating outside of the meeting to come up with 120, or come up with needing more time. So there's obviously more here at play. And I wish Los Banos would just be upfront and tell us what they want. And if it's what you wanted before, be clear with it, because at the retreat, we didn't agree to it. And the changes are very subtle in this agreement that you can read it. I mean, it's not even an afternoon read. And to look over it. So every time you ask your city attorneys to read it, it's going to cost you more money. This is just bureaucracy at its finest. Guys, we're here to get shit done. Not to keep throwing it back and forth all the time. Guys, let's get it done. We're working together great, except for this particular item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your passion on the issue. Anybody else? Tom? Josh?
Did you have something that you hit your mic? Regan, Tom? Oh, I just wanted to just reiterate, you know, I'm not sure the legality in the Brown Act and all that type of stuff. I don't get that. However, I do tend to think that, you know, and I give the cities the benefit of the doubt in regards to there has been a lot of turnover. I get that. You know, you've had two city managers that have been there the longest, right? And then a lot of them have been turnover and there's new staff. So I totally understand that part of it. However, the argument that you're bringing up is that we have concerns, but yet there's no concerns that have been explicitly defined. So I'm not really sure what the concerns are and why you would need that. I mean, if you have the concerns, you have the opportunity to provide those concerns, and they weren't provided. So I'm not really certain as to what they are. I mean, I came in with an open mind, willing to, you know, look at and negotiate, but I was about different period of time and stuff. But 6 months, this just isn't going to happen. I mean, I'm not even going to entertain that because I just don't think it's right. And so I just don't. If there are concerns, just like Mr. McDaniel said, be upfront. I mean, just tell us what are the concerns, because obviously you guys have concerns. You've said that you know of the concerns, but you need more time to review it, to put it in. I guess I'm just confused about that.
Chair,
Go ahead, Director Free.
Los Banos, and if, you know, a lesser time, not 6 months, but we do definitely need some more time, and we need some more time with our new staff to go through it. And I don't have specifics this evening. I will next time. I have been buried in some other things. I was quite ill for quite a while, and so I am not as prepared as I would like to be for this. But I know that my staff has asked for the extension, and I know the other cities have requested an extension of time, and so that's where we are, and I'll be able to get more up to speed. It's been a rough couple of months, so I'll let others speak on that issue.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Yeah, and from the perspective of the city of Merced, I don't think there's anything nefarious going on. I don't think there's any intent to blow up this JPA or do anything radically different. I think, just frankly, it hasn't, given a budget, given all the enormous things we have to do, and given the fact that this is, this current JPA lasts until July of next year. Just to be frank, it hasn't probably been the priority for our council and for our city that it should be. We have, again, we have probably the least turnover, but we have a new city attorney who is getting up to speed on it. And I know at least, 4 of the 6 other cities have new city managers. So I think just with all the, frankly, I think you take that at face value. And I think the cities there's a process, and It's not necessarily whether or not there's specific concerns that we see or have been articulated, but I think the perspective of at least our city and I think other cities as well is just there needs to be a process, and frankly, it's probably our own fault. We just haven't done it yet. So that's kind of the way I see it. I don't know if you see it differently, Tom, or there's just
That's where we are. We're just behind.
and blame us. I think there hasn't been. Just given the mountains of work our staff has had to do with budget and with all the other things that we do, we have a lot going on personally. But I know other cities with new city managers. I think that makes it extremely difficult to address this properly and to go through the process properly. That's just my perspective on that. So, but at the same time, one of two things. Obviously, we're not approving it tonight. We're just potentially approving sending the draft back to the cities. And I obviously have no authority on behalf of the city of Merced to vote for this. But if we, turning back to Emily, you kind of addressed it earlier, if we send it to the cities as is, and then the cities, or if some of the partner jurisdictions reject it, then what's the process there? Is that less efficient or more efficient than asking for an extension?
You could probably argue it either way, but I think there's an issue with that as well. I do agree that sending it back to be rejected is problematic. The cities could also take it at that point and discuss directly with their councils and bring comments back. They don't necessarily have to reject it during that action either. So there are several possibilities. It doesn't necessarily delay it any further than an extension already does, but it could.
Go ahead.
I have a question there. Emily, what if hypothetically a jurisdiction, though, took action and approved it as it was while others came back with comment, if it was released in that scenario?
As we all discussed at the board retreat, this particular agreement contemplates becoming effective upon approval of 2 jurisdictions. So if 2 jurisdictions approve the agreement, those 2 jurisdictions would then be the 2 members of MCAG starting in July of next year. July 19th.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Director McDaniel mentioned some things, and there has been a lot of commentary about the representational structure of MCAG. And the fact that this is one of the few COGs where the entire Board of Supervisors is part of the COG. Fresno, I think, has only 1 supervisor. I have no intention of limiting that and taking that down. There has been discussion of, well, what if there were fewer supervisors on, because the supervisors, there's a block of 5, have almost a majority representing 1 entity. So this is the discussion and the conversation. And so one of the things I want to be sure of is there's no, from my perspective in Los Banos, there's no confrontation, hostility, or hostility. This is the discussion, these are the discussions that have occurred. My opinion is that say, whoa, well, let's limit some will say, well, let's change the structure and let's take it down to maybe 2 or 3 supervisors. Well, then you can very easily, shoot yourself in the foot, because which supervisors, which districts are going to be represented? And what's the rotation going to be? And so all of a sudden you have, you may have, so Merced is unique. We're extremely rural. We're an extremely rural county. I mean, we have, that's probably why our air quality is the best in the Central Valley. Everybody else is yellow and we're green more often than not. And I think we have to approach it that way. I did a great deal of research when this was a couple of years ago on COG representational structures. And if I remember right, Stanislaus County has its entire Board of Supervisors, but they have 11 cities. The Stockton, San Joaquin County, Stockton, I think the city of Stockton gets 3 seats. And the goal there is, representational population-wise. But those counties are in a smaller area and are much more heavily populated with larger urban centers. Merced County is more rural, and I think the good spirit that this group has and has developed and has generated since I've been here. I wanted to comment, and I was going to save this comment for my final comments, but I remember Chair Pereira, first thing he did was bring me in, appoint me to Cal Vans, which I stayed on for a year. And it was that sense of cooperation, I think. And then I work with Mayor Serrato a great deal because we're the only two cities, we're the only two real cities with metropolitan urban issues, i.e. major homeless issues. But we have issues that other towns, the more smaller towns, don't have. So the representational structure was an underlying concern in the early days. And as I pondered it and thought about it and watched the working of this board, I think this representational structure works fine. I don't want to see it changed. But I do know that I do have a new city manager, and I do have staff, and I know everybody's staff has been, a lot of our staffs have overturned. Now, maybe not 6 months, but if the board would like to give maybe 3 or 4 months, so we can get some extension time, so we can get right to it, and then maybe bring it back in November or December, whatever. But those are our requests, and I wanted to be very clear there, because I know very, very well the conversations that went on. I know very, very well the differences of opinion, and I understand them. But I think the conversations in this board and the people, I think everybody understands each other better now because we've had these conversations, because we had that action that took place. And so my philosophy is always, when people are talking, the more people talk together, the more the more people will naturally want to work together. And that's the problem in the world today. Everybody's locked up in their little cage in their computer, and it's always attack. But we're here together, and there's no sense of confrontation or angst here. We want to make Merced County, we're one of the poorest counties in the United States. So, and we all want to do the great things here. We all want to make this place a better place. So I wanted to make these comments because I know Director McDaniel, I know you're talking some of that, and I have a feeling that, am I correct, that was some of the issues. And so I want everyone to know that, no, there's no hostility there. And we've worked out some things, and I'm very pleased with where things are going, but we would like that extended time. I know all the cities would. And so that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Director.
Thanks.
The only thing missing was God Bless America or something playing in the background when you were giving that wonderful speech. All right. No, and I think, again, to Tom's point, the elephant in the room obviously is the board composition, and I in comparison with other COGs, I think it's pretty fair to say that this COG is, in terms of its representation, is weighted, somewhat heavily in favor of the county. But at the same time, what are the pluses and minuses are changing it? And I think Tom's done that analysis, and what value judgment do you put on it, and what does it, is something different better? And I think that the point Tom made is that he kind of went down that rabbit hole and looked into it and said, the alternative probably isn't any different or any better. So, but John, you were.
Yeah, I want to agree a lot with what Tom said. And, since we were at the retreat in November, we have accomplished a great deal. Having somebody make allegations to Director McDaniels that we're violating the Brown Act, that's disturbing to me. Because we could easily say that you guys may be doing the same thing in the county with all of you being in the same office. I want to make sure that my only issue that I have has nothing to do with the sheets on here. I had to rely upon our staff, and our staff hasn't got to where it should be. And like the chair said, that is our fault. We need to go back and put our thumb on the staff and say, give us what you are telling us that you absolutely need. and look, I'll sit there and gladly make a decision. And I won't take into account being threatened that we violated the Brown Act. That hits me home personally. I don't like that.
Director Silvera?
Yeah, and I appreciate all the comments, and it seems like it's turning into a city versus county thing, at least in my mind, and I don't want it to be that way. And in light of the comments that council made, I want to get this damn thing done. I'm serious. I just want to get it done. And I will tell you, because after reading this, it's seeing the letter that came out and reading the agenda, I was like, no, we're done. It's time to move on. But in light of the comments that the council made, that council made, I really want you guys to be able to, so that we can get to a finished product, put this thing behind us, and move on and do the good work. And so, in order for me to support an extension, I said 6 months is a deal breaker for me. I really think that the number should probably be 2 months, and I understand that, but that's 2 months. That's 60 days. You leave this meeting, you get on the phone with your staff and say that this becomes a priority issue, and we need to work on that. And if that, with the commitment, and I know I can't ask for it, but I'm going to just say it anyways, with all of my colleagues from cities, is that there's going to be an honest, good faith effort, which I would expect nothing less from you, that your staffs are going to work out and allow for the discussion that needs to be made. And if you don't like because it says it or does, or work all that stuff out. So because what I don't want to happen is I don't want this deal to come down to the wire, and then now it's a grandstanding moment for someone, and then the whole group suffers, and the whole the work, now it's in question. Can we sign contracts? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an attorney, but I don't want us to be in that position. But in the spirit of, because I will tell you, for 2 years that I was on this board, it was my least favorite meeting to come to. I disliked it. Everything was a fight. It didn't matter whether we were talking transportation, whether we were talking regional waste, whether we were talking the bus, roads, whatever. It was always a fight, and it just was. It was miserable. It was truly, honestly miserable. And I will tell you, elections do have consequences. We got new folks that are on here, and it's changed. It's completely changed. I feel like we can have good, honest discussion with this group, and that we can actually, we don't always agree, but we come to a conclusion, and we can move forward. And in the spirit of that, I could support a 2-month extension to let you do the good work that needs to be done. And then the last comment that I will make is, I get it. Everybody has a different makeup of their board. There is no cookie cutter answer. You look at different cogs up and down. They have different makeups. Just ask yourself, if anybody's questioning the representation, look at all the additional things that we do. When we talk about the RENA stuff, when we talk about allocations that we give, and fine, if we don't have this group, we utilize this group to really kind of be, because it's the only place in the county where we all meet. And unfortunately, Stacy and her staff get to figure out how to deal with that. MCAG was started as a Metropolitan Transportation Agency, but we also do regional waste. We're now adding housing pieces to it. I don't think you get that if this group changes. And for that reason, I think that I get it. We can talk about the county, but listen, let's talk about East Side, West Side. There was a colleague of mine, predecessor, that's what it was about, East Side, West Side. With the census changing, there are now 3 supervisors that represent parts of the west side of the county. Fast forward 10 years, it might even change. It might even be more, just because the west side of the county is growing faster. So, I know that Director McDaniel has a motion on the floor, but in the spirit of really, if it truly is, and I get it. We all get busy, a million things going on, and it just falls off the radar, and then, oh shoot, it's here. But if a 2-month extension allows you to get with your staff, and I understand the transitions, but get with your staff, this becomes a priority, so that this doesn't turn into a last-minute 11th hour fight, because I don't think any of us wants that, because we did that. I will remind everybody, a year or so ago, we did that, and all it did was just really hurt feelings. And so I don't know. I hope that those comments help. And as far as staff, I know that this frustrates. I'm not gonna call it frustrates them. This worries them, right? This is their governing document. That's what brings their whole group together. I think just as much as I want to get it done, I think staff just wants to kind of put this behind them, so this isn't that just hanging over their head. So that's my comments. Thank you.
No, it's more, yeah, it's their livelihood as well. Darren?
No, I've been trying to, but you look that way. I mean,
Oh.
Anyway,
Too handsome.
you know, I just want to remind everybody that we've had 2 votes on this board already about the composition of the board. And they were 8-3, it failed to change the composition, and 9-2. So I appreciate Tom's comments about not worrying about the composition of the board because, you know, we've already been there and done that. And so, you know, I walked in here thinking that, you know, that the letter didn't have any reasons why we needed to extend the time frame. You know, and to be honest with you, for those of you cities who've had staff change, you know, your staff's had plenty of time between last fall and, you know, here a month or 2 ago when you had staff changes to get your stuff done, right? And so, I mean, I kind of listening to Supervisor Silvera, I'm kind of to the point to where I could, you know, add 60 days on. I don't think it's respectful to anybody in the room to take it any farther past that. You know, as your chair, I asked at multiple occasions during the meeting, you know, where are we? Does anybody have any questions in my board reports? And nobody said a word, right? And so either, you know, shame on you for not doing your job, or, you know, maybe you just didn't think about it, and then when you did, it was too late because you were in the midst of staff changes. I get that. So, you know, Scott didn't make a motion, but I'll make a motion to extend the releasing the draft JPA for 60 days from today's date.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't we already have a motion on the floor?
We do. Yeah, no, we'll hear that. Yeah, we'll hear.
So I'm amending the motion. His motion was to release
Can I
the
say
draft.
something first?
Yeah.
Our city, my interim city manager signed that 6-city letter, unbeknownst to me. And he emailed me saying that he did, and excerpt out of his email was that a couple of cities have real issues with the extent of the MCAG executive director's unilateral authority on some issues. So is that the cat out of the bag? Is that what we're stalling for?
It's not in the JPA.
Huh? It's not a secret?
There's not in the Joint Powers Agreement about the executive director's authority.
Well, that's what my interim city manager was led to believe when he signed that 6-city letter. I think we've all had plenty of time to look at this thing. Kicking it down the road is wasting time, and it's wasting money, attorney fees. I know, barrister, you don't work for free. None of our city attorneys work for free. She doesn't work for free.
I'm
so
taking vacation hours to be here.
you know, we've had it for months. And like Director McDaniel said, you could read it in an afternoon. If there's a problem, bring it up. Let's say what it is. Let's deal with it and move on. And I still am adamant that we need to get this thing done and get it out to the cities and move on with life.
Okay.
MCAG has never done anything to hurt Gustine. I'm the smallest guy here. My staff's the smallest. And I don't want to spend any more money on attorneys looking at this thing, for one. It's not a violation of the Brown Act because most of the people that signed it were not on this board. They were city managers. They weren't mayors. There was only a couple of mayors that signed it. So it wasn't a Brown Act violation, obviously. But it just seems to me that, I don't know. It seems like there's an underlying current of somebody that, for whatever reason, and how would we all like to pay for our own RENA numbers? How would we all like to do our own trash? How would we like to all do all the housing things that they do that are required by the state? My city wouldn't be able to do any of them because we can't afford it. Would be bankrupt. So MCAG doesn't hurt anybody. And my opinion has always been, and I've said it many times here, whatever helps Atwater helps Gustine. Whatever helps the county helps Los Banos. We're all in this thing together. And I'm not trying to upset anybody or, you know, anything like that, but let's move on with life. These meetings that when we talk about this, they drag on and on and on, ad nauseum. The first meeting I ever came to lasted till 9:30 at night because this was the topic. Let's put it behind us. It's been working for 40 years. So that's what I gotta say.
Director McDaniel.
Thank you. I just want to say, Director Free, I appreciate your comments. I was wondering if that was part of what the further discussion was going to be. And I do want to say, and I realize that setting directors didn't know about the letter being signed. I do get that. And the reason I dropped the Brown Act is maybe for TRB to be listening a little bit, because you cannot, and it clearly states in the Brown Act that you cannot use staff to circumvent the law. And with 6 entities signing it, it's the majority. So I just want to clear that. So we did look into it a little further to make sure before I would say something for the record. But yeah, I still have a motion on the floor, but after hearing the comments now, I'm still with my second in the motion. I would like to be moving on with this, but if we're willing to do a 60-day continuation, but let's have it done in the 60 days so we can do it, I would be willing to entertain that. I know we have an amendment to the motion, so we'll vote on that first, and we'll move on. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Mayor. So are you amending your motion procedurally? How do you want to proceed with this? Are you amending your motion for a 60-day?
There's a director who made an amendment to the motion, so I think we do the amendment first before we come back to us.
Okay.
And at that time, if this motion passes, I think I will withdraw my motion.
Okay. And that motion, Director Pereira, did you make that motion, or was it? Okay. And seconded by Director Silvera.
And my, just so everybody's clear, my amendment was to put off, to release the draft document, JPA document, in 60 days, not today.
Okay. So after the September,
60 days from today, whatever. That'd be September 21st or whatever date that is.
Am I understanding that after, we will not vote on it in 60 days?
Right, we won't vote on, yeah, we're postponing the release for 60 days to give the cities time to do what they want to do.
Got it. And I mean, in our defense, to an extent, in the city's defense, is we speak obviously on behalf of our councils and our cities, so it makes it a little more complicated sometimes, I think, for the cities. Not for Pat. Pat just shoots from the hip and goes, but he's that.
I don't think I shoot from the hip. That's talk about running a city.
All right, motion and second. Joy.
Director Aguilar?
Yeah. Joy, could you stop for 1 second?
No, after.
After? Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Said yes. Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
And Chair Serrato?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Good work, Lloyd, getting unanimous vote after all that. It's a minor miracle, buy a lottery ticket right now or something.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I will withdraw my motion off the floor at this time, and I will be leaving the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McDaniel.
Discussion, folks. I appreciate the discussion with everybody.
Appreciate you.
Don't forget to put your lanyard back on before you leave your room.
Hey, vote for Gore.
No, is it okay? Directors, if I may for one moment, I'd like to address each of you specifically to inform you of this when you go back and have conversations with your city managers and your staff. There is nothing and has never been anything in the JPA agreement delineating the executive director's authority. There is nothing in the government code that requires or even addresses delineating the executive director's authority in the joint powers agreement, and I think you would be hard pressed to find a joint powers agreement anywhere in the state of California that delineates the executive director's authority. That's because the executive director's authority is up to this board. You set her duties, you set her responsibilities, you authorize her to take actions. This board in the past has authorized her to do that, and that is why she is able to continue to do so. I want to be clear about that so that everyone understands that that is how she has the authority that she has. This board gave it to her. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Moving on. Okay. Moving on to item 10. This is probably the worst timing ever for this item. Roles and goals.
I didn't do that on purpose.
So, timing. Just briefly, I have I can. You want me to do it or a minute?
You go for
Okay,
it.
I'll do it. I've had informally, kind of with Darren, I think John, Josh a little bit to an extent. Stacy as well. We had this conversation. So Stacy graciously and I think intelligently was willing to put this on the agenda. My thought was just to have a brief discussion, if possible, kind of more along the lines of what people's vision was for the for our goals and for the role of this board. Do we want to be more in the position of an active board that really drives policy in certain areas, or is that opportunity to an extent not there or not there? Maybe we could to an extent pull back, be more of an oversight board a little bit. So essentially, how active do we want to be in terms of driving policy, or do we want to take more of the role of just thinking, look, everything's good and things are moving in the right direction, and we just got to make sure everything stays that way. So, kind of my thoughts. So if anybody had any thoughts on that, Tom, looks like you're touching the microphone. So Lloyd, I keep missing you.
Go ahead.
But
go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I want to share something that JPAs in their nature are their own entity, right? I serve on the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, previously served on the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority. And in those entities, the board members then become somebody different, right? We are somebody different. And that's what joint power authorities are, right? Not everything is all decided by everybody's city council, right? That city council, or in our case, the Board of Supervisors, right? We have our representatives. And you are solely responsible for making those decisions. Now, if you want to go back and get your council's input on something, there's nothing that prevents you from doing that. But they have invested in you the decision-making ability. And so I've spoke to 2 city managers that in the past, and they don't understand that, right? They want to control part of what happens here. But unfortunately, that's not their role, right? Their role isn't to control what happens here. Their role is to support their member who serves on this board. And so, I think there's confusion, and and obviously in the email that Pat read, that there's confusion amongst your staffs of what the roles and responsibilities are. And so, I know it's kind of a hard way to tell them that they need to support you, but they don't control what goes on here, right? That they work for you. And so I just kind of want to share that because if we get confused on what MCAG does, then we will forever have trouble. Samir Sheikh is the director of the Air Pollution Control District. He doesn't call our CEO and ask him what he thinks about what we're doing. Now, Stacy interacts and does the TRB. I mean, so the function of this board is more engaged with the jurisdictions than all the other JPAs I've been a party to. And so, I think I feel good about what we do, and yet I think there's some cities that feel bad about what we do. And I just, and I think city staffs more so than the directors here. So anyways, just want to share that so you can kind of think about it in a way of how you want to interact with us. Matt's asking a very good question. And, but anyway, I just want to give that basis or baseline for the way I've seen them work in a good way.
Yeah. Thank you, Lloyd. Bill, Tom, you look like you're moving towards the microphone.
Sure. Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that we have the ability to communicate, like with the homeless issue, we can bring that in, that we have these communication items, but items that are not necessarily something that's going to dump more work on staff. But the idea of being able to address county issues, because it's the only place we're all here, and it's the only way we can do it without violating the Brown Act, right? And so we're able to have those discussion items. So I like that dimension of that discussion, but those discussion type items, like in the case homeless, who else, whatever else, maybe it'll be economic development or something, or we can have open discussion here, but then we don't. But all that open discussion doesn't it's not extra work for staff. And a joint powers, if I remember right, MCAG was founded, the beginning was Cheryl Banyan to build a water treatment plant in Dos Palace. I think that's in 1967. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's what I remember as the history. And so, those are the functions at MCAG, to bring home the big grants, transportation, waste, and to have that extra horsepower to bring home the big money, those big grants that only the COG can bring. But I like that extra dimension of the conversation, but don't add those conversational items to staff jobs. Just let that be a place where we can, like John Checkley comes here and then he can connect with our staff. So I just wanted to share that I was very pleased with that and like to continue with those.
Scotty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So specifically to your question, listen, I think we all want to be kind of out there in front of stuff. I like to think that we're trendsetters and not trend followers. But that being said, I will forever protect what our role is here, what MCAG's role is. And as we talk about, because it is the convenient place where we all get together, right? And it's they agendize it and the public can come and comment, is I will make sure to protect the MCAG side of the house, that if we are going to add additional things, that it comes with a price tag. We can only put so much on the staff that we have and expect them to be able to deliver. And so as we think about it, when we talk about like these housing things and I get is, if this is going to be the new role of the Metropolitan Transportation Organization, planning organization, it needs to come with realistic, Stacey, this is my request, if you will, to you, is that you come, if you need, I need 5 staff members, I need a deputy department head to handle that. We need to know that before we go in saddling it, because I think you guys do a phenomenal job with the staff that you have and the work that you do. And what I don't want to see is all of a sudden we're doing more stuff and now it shows up at 80% or 90%, not because that's what you want to do, but just because you're being overwhelmed. So I think that's kind of part of my thought process. But no, I appreciate that when we're at the 99 Summit and when we look at, now mind you, I do believe in the rising tide raising all ships. But when you talk about Highway 99, and I was at the Highway 99 Summit, and there's a reason why they haven't done Merced yet. It's the most expensive piece. But then also talking about, not a big fan of high-speed rail, just letting you guys all know that. But understanding that if it does come here, we need to make sure that Merced gets its piece of it and we get the dollars that come along with it. But then also tying in a state where they don't want to do any more widening projects, tying it to that multifaceted, multimodal approach, because we're going to have a train depot here and a bus depot and everything, and really thinking outside the box. I want to be on the cutting edge of that. I want to be the ones that they come to. I want to be the ones that we set the trend. We did it here, and then everybody else gets to they can mimic us, and that's fine. Hopefully they'll kick us down a few dollars extra because we did such a great job. So that's the way I see us to be. But it takes everybody's involvement, and then just a couple of things where that coming together as this group, where it highlights how important it is and the good work we do, is the One Voice trip. For the folks that were back there on the One Voice trip, that's where it all comes together, where by the end of the first day, we can all talk about each other's projects, and going in there. And I think when you go into and you see these federal offices, them seeing that's the good side of what we do. And I'm glad that we had our discussion today and that we got to a point where we said, hey, in the interest of fairness and wanting all agencies to be able to get their information in a good way and be able to get back to us, we got there. And the last thing that I want to make is this: we got to remind ourselves that we are the policy makers, and embrace that, because you all worked really hard to get that. We've all been through elections, some uglier than others, right? My last one was my best one. I ran unopposed, okay? But we are the policy makers, and you can't be, and listen, I'm a former dairyman. That's my wheelhouse. That's what I know. You want to talk about cows? I know cows. And I don't even consider myself an expert. We rely on our staffs to be, they chose that field of expertise. They're the expertise. But at the same time, I got 58,000 bosses that I got to answer to, and every once in a while they got to be reminded that we're the policymakers. we're the ones that got voted in here, and I take that, I think, like all of you do, responsibly. And so I just, the comment, that Director Nagy made, I wish people would just come out and say what they, you know what I mean? But this whole deal of kind of, and I don't know where it came from, and quite honestly, I don't really care. But it's out there, and it's just, I'm okay with it. And I'm a guy that likes to tend to watch the dollars. I'm okay with our policies that we've given direction. And if I don't like it, I'll be the first guy to say, hey, we need to change that. And I think over time, I don't like the way that we call the 10%, we call it a
change order budget.
A change order, because that makes me think of, and so we have been able to change stuff here. And, listen.
Now contingency.
Now it's contingency. Thank you for that. You got to understand, like, the amount of dollars that run through MCAG versus the amount of dollars that run through the city of Las Banas or the city of Augustine. It's like comparing apples to oranges, folks. It really is. The amount of money that when you're running now going to be close to $1 billion organization this year for Merced County, having a spending authority of 20 or 30,000 that you might have at this city makes absolutely no sense, right? Government code, state code allows it to go to 250,000. I think our CEO has $100,000 spending authority. That makes sense. 100,000 in $1 billion budget. That makes sense. And so I think that we all need to kind of think about, like, if that's the issue, wherever that came from, hopefully they're watching. Think about that. Like, what are you? Let's compare apples to apples there. So, Matt, I hope that helps to answer kind of, at least that's my thoughts on where we should be doing and where we should be going.
Yeah, no, I think the key point you make there, and I think that's the key point I'm trying to get at too, is, we're the policymakers, and so to what extent is this board, this group, going to embrace it? Obviously, our charge is somewhat narrow. We have regional transportation, we have regional waste, and then, potentially, probably in growing, whether we like it or not, is housing. And to what extent are we going to deal with that, embrace that, combine with other jurisdictions? So, I mean, just to be straight to the chase, is, to what extent is this group, this board, again, to Lloyd's point, the authorities in this board, is this board going to, make those, and again, you gave the specific example of the multimodal issues on Highway 99 with rail and buses and everything else. That's a classic example, I think, of what we're looking for. And to what extent are we going to drive and formulate policy when it comes to regional transportation, regional housing, and to what extent are we going to get into that? And then regional waste as well. Which questions are already good and done and answered we don't have to deal with, and just let the train keep rolling, and to what do we think we need, to either do more or to change course. So,
just one quick question. I know we got a party at 5:30. If we decide to add more on to the staff, then the jurisdictions then have to put in the money to cover that, right? So if we spend $300,000 to hire a housing staff, then the counties and the city have to put the money together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Seeing heads shaking. Oh, Pat.
I would just like to, a couple of comments, that I have the utmost respect and admiration for everybody on this board. And I've always been the type where you say what you think and you present your side, but once the vote is taken, you support the vote. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody up here does that. And I know you're all my friends, and so I can say what I feel is right to say. But at the end of the day, we're all friends. We'll go to dinner, have a drink, whatever. And life goes on. This isn't the end of the world, and I'm the low man on the totem pole here as far as I'm concerned, because you all do a lot more than I do.
It's more fun to argue most of the time.
Hey, I'm not a lawyer.
I want to tell everybody a comment that occurred about 6 months ago with a past elected official who actually cornered me and said, I don't know what you're doing with this organization, but the city should never be paying anything for that organization for what they get out of it. And my response is, you have zero clues of what's going on. I said, you don't realize what the staff does for the city of Atwater through MCGA. I said, you have none. I said, of course we're not going to get out of this. And I'm like, Scotty, I want to be a trendsetter. I've always said, I am not a politician, I'm a leader. I'm going to go lead. And that's what we do here, is we lead. Do we disagree? Yes, we do. Do we disagree as much in the past? Oh no, not even close. And I'm aware of that, and I'm proud to say that, you know what, I have to go to the MCGA meeting because we're giving direction for the whole county. We're being part of the county in certain areas, and I appreciate the staff and everything they do. Sorry, I had to say that.
Okay. And just, go ahead, Josh.
And I want to just kind of, I don't think Matt is saying anything wrong. I think he's just bringing up, just asking a question to allow us to talk. And I think what he's getting at, I think what he was trying to get at, and I'm not going to speak for him, but I've had multiple conversations with him about this, is that it's just kind of highlighting, kind of what we do, and if that is what we're going to do. And I think that with the comments that have been made, I think it's been made very clear, and I think it answers his question specifically. And I don't, again, I'm not speaking for you. I'm just, I think that's what it does.
Yeah, I think just, I don't know if we need a motion or anything, but I think just, kind of summarizing what I've heard, I think this seems like this board very much wants to be involved, at least in regional transportation is our number one charge. I think with high confidence this board wants to be involved, and I think we deserve having a significant discussion on, regional transportation, where we want to invest our priorities and potentially, our efforts at securing regional funding. And then I think that the housing discussion and the waste discussion later on with the SB 1383 stuff is on the agenda already. So I think we're going to have those conversations. But I think at some point we should have a very explicit, detailed conversation on regional transportation. That's it.
I hear another retreat in the making.
Jeez, maybe we could do it at the retreat, but we could. That's kind of what I'm gathering. I think we need to have a real intentional conversation on that topic.
I got it. Loud and clear.
Okay, and everything else seems. The other things will already there. Okay. All right, onward.
Onward and upward.
All right. Agenda item 11A, which is Christine's item, authorizing the executive director to issue a purchase order for 4 buses in the amount not to exceed $4.92 million. Christine, you have very expensive taste in cars.
I do, that I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Director.
Bugatti bus.
So the item before you is issuing a purchase order for 4 battery electric buses in an amount not to exceed $4,929,333. Just by way of background, 3 of these buses we have already issued POs for to Proterra, and so the first part of the action is essentially canceling that PO. After further thought and consideration, there have been additional bids that have allowed us to purchase off of, or federally compliant bids that have allowed us to piggyback on, essentially, that will allow us to purchase the same type of vehicle that we currently operate. And so Gillig, the manufacturer for all of our diesel buses, is now offering a battery electric bus. And so these are the buses that we would be purchasing. The 4th bus being the AHSC granted bus from the city of Merced. And so one of the earlier items, you approved the Measure V funding to provide that local match for the full bus amount. So the requested action is 2-part. It's authorizing the executive director to cancel the PO with Proterra, and authorizing the executive director to issue a PO to Gillig for an amount not to exceed $4,929,333 to purchase 4 35 to 40-foot low-floor battery electric buses, along with associated depot chargers, options, spare parts, training, and special tools. And then these 3 buses were funded with the TIRCP funding. which we got to provide additional services to North Merced and Planada. And those are the same route changes that we're working on to be effective August 13th, which you'll hear about next.
Quick question. Can we cancel the PO without any financial or legal problem?
Yes, we have the unilateral right to do so.
I'll move to approve.
Joy, turning to you. Motion from Director Pereira, second from Director Pedrosa. Oh. On advice of council, given now that everybody's here, we can do a vote.
Voice vote.
Voice vote.
Great call, Cal.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
That was fast.
I'll slip a couple through. Anybody opposed? Motion. I just got $100. All right. All right, item 11B, Jose, on the new transit routes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, directors. This is just, staff has presented an information item to the board. We've already presented this in last month's board meeting. And then, again, the goal with these modifications is just to address some outstanding unmet transit needs and to implement a few of the short-range transit plan recommendations that came to us. Those modifications include one of the unmet transit needs was to provide more service to Planada. So we'll be streamlining that route through Planada a little better and also streamlining it through La Grande a little better, increasing the frequency of that route. Another unmet transit need that we had was to provide more service to North Merced. And doing so, we're going to take the current M4 route, we're going to divide it up to an M4 north. That route will be covering going a little more north on M Street all the way to Bellevue. The city of Merced is going to be building a transit hub at Bellevue and M that in the future will be installing some shelters, and it will be a little more, give students another transportation option to get to college, Merced College or UC Merced. We'll take the current southern leg of that M4 that's in service now, we're going to change it to the M7. That route is going to be providing service to a new dense development, low-income development at Childs and B. And we're also going to be providing on that route service to a newly constructed rescue mission on 129 West Cone Avenue. Some of these changes also include finalizing the implementation of the emergency reductions that were implemented in October of last year. Those included the elimination of the W2 route. It was just a low ridership route. Livingston route, the L route, we're going to be streamlining that route through Livingston, providing a little bit more service through South Livingston, making it a longer route or loop in Livingston. We're going to incorporate more stops to give the citizens of Livingston a better chance to catch a ride on the bus. We're also going to incorporate a lot of the W2 bus stops into the Livingston route. So even though the W2 is going away, a lot of these stops will be picked up by the Livingston route. And then we're also going to be updating the schedules on that route. We're going to make some changes to the Los Baños route. We're going to modify the timetable and the schedule on that route. We're going to go from 3 buses to 2 buses. In general, the microtransit in the west side has really taken off. It's a really good service that Gastine, Centinela, Los Baños, Dos Palos citizens are taking advantage of. So that's great news. And we're also going to eliminate some flag stops in our incorporated cities. We have blasted these changes on social media, on our buses, at our transit centers, at our transit hubs, on social media, newspapers, and our website. We have gotten comments back from different citizens, and we are addressing those as we are receiving them. And again, this is just the goal with these modifications is to address some of those unmet transit needs again, and some short-range transit plan recommendations that we can take care of now versus later. The requested action for this item is just to hold a public hearing to receive comments on the transit route schedule and service revisions, and then to adopt the respective schedule and service changes that go into effect Saturday, August 13th. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, sir. Any questions for Jose before we open the public hearing? Seeing heads shaking, we're going to open the public hearing now at 5:09 p.m. Anybody here from the public been waiting around for the last 2 hours to comment on this item? Please come forward, sir. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes to address us.
I am Edgar Aguilar Cázares. I'm from Winton, and I ride the bus. And what I wanted to say was they should bring back the W-2, bring back the A3. Why? Because the A3 would go to Ralston Park, down to the Bloss, and sometimes Castle Family Health Centers actually transfers and makes its appointments over there. And bring back the W-2 because I'm a student and I don't want to walk to the VFW to get the bus. I would like it to be more in California and Myrtle, getting the W-2.
Okay.
That was what I was going to say.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, Stacy, the executive director, she read everything. She took copious notes there. So if you leave your number potentially, someone can follow up with your email.
Not
and then, yeah, not allowed. You know, Jose's right there. Have a conversation with him. He can get your contact information, potentially follow up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
there's a sign-in book at the front of the foyer as you exit the building. You can leave contact information within the booklet.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Unsure. All right. Anybody else from the public? Anybody online?
There are no hands raised online.
All right, closing the public hearing now at 5:11, bringing it back to the board for discussion and/or action.
Chair Silvera, motion to approve. Second.
Okay. Motion second from Director Silvera and Director Pedroso. Is there any opposition? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Takes us to agenda item 12, discussion items, none. Anybody wish to be heard on items 12 or 13? There's nothing on it. All right, takes us to item 14. You guys loaded up my first meeting pretty good, huh?
You're doing well, Chair. You're doing
Trying. Do we have somebody here on, looks like Kyle? Kyle's here on our SB 13, everybody's favorite topic, SB 13. The only topic.
Chair, move to table this item.
The only topic worse than renewing the JPA is SB 1383.
Kyle's going to get a better assignment next.
Yeah, we'll get through this eventually.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Welcome, and we have you here for update on SB 1383.
Yes. So good evening, directors. This is a discussion item to update you on the SB 1383 Organic Waste Processing Transfer RFP. As directed by this board, the Waste Authority developed an RFP to help assist the jurisdictions to meet SB 1383. An RFP was released to find a builder operator for the transportation or processing of organic waste for Merced County. An evaluation team made up of staff from the RWA, the City of Merced, Merced County, Atwater, Gustine, and Livingston have toured facilities, interviewed proposers, and discussed the proposals that were submitted for the RFP. Last week, the team met to provide its recommendations. A couple of folks were not able to attend the meeting, so we've asked them to give their comments in writing to us so we can make our final decision on how to move forward. Following their input, we will either make a decision to reject all the offers or enter into negotiations with one or more of the proposers. If we begin negotiations, our plan would be to finalize those negotiations next month, present proposed contracts to the TRB in September. Then in October, we would present those proposals to each of your councils to give your electeds in those jurisdictions the chance to give you each direction how to move forward with those. We would then bring the final contracts back to the TRB and to this board for a final decision, hopefully before the end of the year. I'm looking to do that in either November, and if we have to push it to December, depending on timing, we would do that. But they will allow us plan to get this done and a contract in place before the end of the year, and we can start hopefully providing services in 2023.
Okay. Any questions for Kyle?
Yeah, I have one for Kyle.
Go ahead, John.
Kyle, do you know who the representative is from Atwater?
Steve Atwood would be your Public Works Director.
Okay, then I'll discuss it with him.
Sure.
Oh, thanks.
Anybody else?
Comment.
Go ahead, Scott.
Kyle, I still am interested in proceeding with legal action against the state of California for SB 1383, in that they've not realized the unintended consequences that they're going to put by requiring additional trucks to go up and down the road in the rural areas. And so I still think that we need to consider that, and I think, again, trying to be trendsetters, we will probably have multiple counties that join us if we start that trend.
Okay, Lloyd.
There we go. Supervisor Silvera, could we work with RCRC instead of, putting it on us, is to try to build a consensus and then work at it from that angle?
For those of you that don't know, RCRC is Rural Counties Representing California, which our colleague, Director McDaniel, is the county rep on that. But I do think that there has to be some pushback on this, because we all of our bosses, all of our constituents are going to pay for this. And at the end of the day, I really do believe that, like, some scientists, third-party ones that are a lot smarter than me, are going to be able to verify that we're going to cause more harm to the environment by this law than what they think that we're gonna save by removing the organics from the landfill.
No, I think so. Yeah, no, there's a lot of sense in terms of rolling huge trash trucks to get 2 miles a gallon down country roads and ripping up those roads and having to restore them. There's a lot of truth to that. Okay. Anybody else? All right. And there's no request for, that was just an update, no action
An update for discussion, just to keep you updated on where we're at and on the schedule of our RFP.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time. We'll see you again soon. All right. Stacy's lowering the microphone for item 15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have three quick things. One, I want to thank the gentleman who provided comment. You waited a long time through a long meeting to provide those comments, so we appreciate you sticking with us. The second is, I'd mentioned her earlier, but I wanted to introduce Elizabeth Forte as our new director for planning and programming, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to give her a minute just to introduce herself. She comes to us from TCAG, and I'll let her tell you the rest, but why I wanted to provide this moment in particular was because Nav can attest to this. When this year started, we have been hyper-focused on needing to breathe new life into how we operate as a transportation agency. That part often gets overlooked because we're doing other things with transit and everything else, and it had just become a bit automatic. So we were waiting for the right person, and Elizabeth really comes with experience. So hearing this board want to be more present and more engaged and more of a leadership role in regional transportation, now's the perfect time. No pressure, Elizabeth, but please, if you'll just share a few things about yourself.
Thanks, Stacy. Good evening, board. Nice to meet you. I am still here. I didn't start like the tiptoe backwards during the contentious discussion. No, but in all seriousness, I've heard great things about your board, truly, and the staff and Stacy, and I've worked with your staff previous to this. A little bit about my background. I have a lot of family in Merced County. Actually, coming up to the meeting today, I run into my aunt because she works on the other side of the wall, and I haven't seen her since Easter, kind of thing. So Merced County is where most of my family is. It's where I come for the holidays. I grew up in Kings County. I worked in Tulare County, so I'm a San Joaquin Valley girl, let's say. I enjoy working for the MPO. I've worked for TCAG for 16 years. My first year there was when we were trying to pass our measure, and that was really fun. I think my first task straight out of college was to record what felt like thousands of handwritten survey cards that we got for our transportation sales tax measure. But that was an amazing thing to be a start of. I'm excited to see what you can do with your measure. I feel like in Tulare County, we've had a lot of success in leveraging and moving projects forward, working with Stacy and your board on 99. So I really love what the MPO perspective brings and what we can do as a board. And I love, some of the things I've heard today about, working as a JPA and what we can do, together a little bit bigger and better. So, thank you for having me, and I will be working closely with you. I'm going to start backing out because I hear there's a party in Atwater, so.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and now you will be happy to know that she will be talking more at board meetings than all these items I've been covering up here, so. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I know there's only one person on this board that can talk more than I am, and I can, and he's right here. The other thing.
Both were about to talk on agenda items 12 and 13.
I know. I always have to find space. One last thing. I do want to just call Eric up for a second. As you guys know, Eric, this is his last board meeting. So his last day as the director of the Regional Waste Authority is the end of this month. And then he is we poach our colleague at TCAG to get Elizabeth. The county poaches us to get Eric. It's just a big chess game. So, but just want to thank Eric. Feels like it's been just a blink with the pandemic and all of what we've gone through, but it's been a few years, and he's really helped implement and lift the agency up, and really, I think, kind of bring the team together in a way that we struggled with for a long time. And not only has he been an excellent director for RWA, but he's been truly at heart a champion of MCAG as an agency, and that was a missing piece for what we needed out at RWA, and something that he brought and was really special. So I'm glad you're just going to be probably now working with us just as much, but just wanted to give you a moment. I know you didn't have an item on the agenda, but if you just wanted to say a few things.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you. I will tell you, when I started in October of 19, Stacy was gracious, opened the shop for me, created every opportunity for me to be successful at the authority. And so I just want to compliment Stacy first. And this is bittersweet. MCAG's been great, RWA, TJPA, the whole agency has been awesome. The employees there work extremely hard. The comments that were made today, just, commenting on the value of staff and just the work being done, I just echo that. There's a tremendous amount of work, and I know as I leave, the Lord has blessed me at the authority. I have not had what my predecessor had with finances and issues of that nature. We saw a 20% drop when COVID first came on in 2020, and that kind of got us into thinking of a world that it could be. It's really prosperous right now, and I give credit to God and the decision this board has made for our staff. With it, I will tell you, as I leave, I'm looking forward, hopefully the Lord blessing me as I go on to the county. And I'm hopeful for that opportunity, but I know that I'm leaving a hardship with Stacy. Now the meetings that I've taken over, the things that I've been a part of, these are now going to roll on to Stacy. And so I am sorry for that. I did not intend for this to be that. And so anyway, I'm going to continue to help Stacy in any way that I can, and look forward to working with my Board of Supervisors and all of you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
May I?
I'm done.
Board reports.
Or do you have something for Eric, or do you have a board report?
Yes.
So we could. Yeah. Yes. What do you mean? Yeah.
If you want to move on to board reports, and then I could say something. Is that what you want to do?
It's up to you. Do you want 2 chances to talk or 1 chance to talk?
Give me one.
All right. On to directors' reports. Unless there's anything specifically for Eric. Okay. Item 16, director's reports.
Yeah.
Director Pereira.
Sure. I just wanted to thank Eric for what he's done. I live right, and I drive past the 59 landfill all the time, and I dump there, right. So I just appreciate his his attention to detail, right. It's easy sometimes to get in an office and just do your office stuff and the major stuff, but Eric took the time, right, and I every once in a while I'd ask questions to the scale staff, and and they felt like that their boss really cared about what they did and worked on the system. So just thank you and appreciate you. No other report.
Director Aguilar.
Eric, best wishes and good luck. Thank you for everything you've done for MCAG. Just want to apologize. I won't be at the city county dinner tonight. We have an event at the city of Livingston where we're gonna get our keys for the Livingston Farmers Association for our recplex from the Prop 68 grant. So you guys have fun without me.
Director Pedroza.
Welcome, Elizabeth, and congratulations, Eric. Thank you very much. Now that I have the mic, I would like to bring up that discussion on JPA again. I'm just kidding. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome.
Was it your podcast?
Oh, sorry you're leaving, and I welcome you to on the county side. So, thank you, Eric. Yeah, you guys will be missing me tonight at the dinner too. So I'll be in Livingston. Thanks.
I go to Livingston too. It sounds like a party.
Thank you, Eric. Great work. You always brighten up the room with your smile and your positive attitude, and it shows in all the work that's been done. We appreciate it very much. And Elizabeth, welcome. I've known the 40 family for a very long time, and welcome on board. It's good to see you here. Thanks.
Scotty.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, echo the comments. Elizabeth, heard nothing but great things about you before you even came here, and so look forward to working with you. Eric, goodbye from MCAG and hello from the county. I've already had a conversation with Eric and just kind of maybe listed out some of what I think my expectations are. So you know where I stand. And then the other thing I do want to, and I'm going back to my city days in Los Angeles, and I think our policy here mirrors that. I would like to, for the next agenda, put on a request to see if there's a majority of the board that would like to discuss. I want to understand what the role of our TRB is. The way that I understand it, they're a technical review board. I think that they're, I don't know that they have their own bylaws. I think that, I just, again, mentioned it earlier about reminding that, we are the policy makers. And so I want to better understand what their role is. And even our Citizens Advisory Committee, understanding what their role is. And, at the end of the day, I want people doing good work. And I guess it's a kind of trust but verify situation to know that folks we're not adding other meetings for somebody else to have to go to, and really, what are we getting out of it? What is this board gaining out of it? What are they gaining out of it? So I would like that as a future agenda item request to see if a majority of my board would like to go down that path. Thank you.
Thanks. Director Kale.
Welcome, Elizabeth. Like Scotty said, you come well versed, and everybody seemed to just love you, so I appreciate that. Eric, I really do appreciate everything you've done for this group. My only thing is I'm going to ask you to get a hold of the county supervisors to allow you once a month to come in here and give us one of your awesome invocations. So hopefully those guys will allow you to come in here and do that. Appreciate that. And we'll see you all in 2 minutes in Atwater at the county thing. So, and I've already warned them in advance that we weren't going to get there in time. So, okay, that's it.
Hey, John, the board's not going to start without us anyways.
We got 2 invitations here. We can go to Atwater or Livingston. We guess he's going to. Mayor Nagy.
Just a couple things. I was going to say the same thing about your invocations. And also, is it me or is this the first time he has not had a tie on? I mean, you always wear a tie. You just don't care anymore. You just don't care anymore. No, we will miss you. Best. You've been a godsend to RWA. So, and we wish you all the best in the future. And Elizabeth, welcome to the team. You got some awesome people to work with, and welcome. And I grew up in Tulare County, and I left too, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Elizabeth, it shows you how smart I am, right? I'm thinking the guy leaving, and I don't even welcome the new person. Not very smart of me. But anyways, well, welcome to the team, and I have some friends in Tulare, and I was afraid when one of them didn't get reelected to the board that might change your mind, and you might decide to stay there. So, anyways, I was welcome and glad you're here.
Same for me. I echo a lot of the comments. Welcome, Elizabeth. Eric, thank you for everything, and feel free to come back anytime to give one of your implications. That's it. It's so much fun that I'm gonna miss the next meeting. So Josh will be chairing the next one in August, and I'll be back in September. So it was a pleasure, and appreciate the discussion. And motion's adjourned unless anybody else has anything else. Okay, we are adjourned.
Good job, Mr. Chair.